All right, so some baseball stuff happened today. Let's talk about it.
Baseball stuff! Baseball stuff!
So to kick things off, we'll go ahead and address Cincinnati receiving infielder Gavin Lux, who was rumored around the Mariners for a little bit there. It was pretty mild for the couple days that it lasted. In return, Dodgers get the 37th overall pick and Mike Sirota, who before last year's college season was actually pretty well regarded. He was somebody that was high on the watch list. So he's somebody that could end up doing well at the next level. Yeah, so far Sirota hasn't stepped foot in a minor league box just yet. No recordings there, but he ended up last year at Northeastern, slashing 298, 473, 513, 7 home runs. So projected power may or may not come. As of right now, current power not very high, but the hit tool is definitely there. The on base tool is 100% there. Yeah, I think the Dodgers, for where they're at, I think they got a good kickback for it. The draft picks, I've noticed, those are starting to become more prevalent, which is another topic I want to save for another day. I still think draft picks should be able to be traded, maybe like the first 5 rounds. Anyway, that's a topic for another day.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
But yeah, they ended up getting a decent little kickback from it, and in an area where they felt that they upgraded with getting Sung Kim. Well, that kind of addresses some other things, right, with the Mariners.
Our balls are in your court.
So yeah, could they do the whole buyback situation where they go Luis Castillo straight back? We'll take Edwin Arroyo and Noelvi Marte back. That's more funny than it is real, but just wanted to at least throw it out there. Yeah, what does the surplus situation look like in Cincinnati? Is there is there an actual trade partner with them to be able to land any of these guys? Is there anybody that makes sense? Yeah, I mean, there's Spencer Steer, there's Christian Encarnacion Strand, Jimmer Candelario, Matt McLean, um, who I think he's still on, coming back from an injury. Yeah, looking around their infield, it doesn't look like there's maybe too much that I would clamor about to try and get back into Seattle, especially for asking prices. Really just kind of depends on what they are asking for in return for a, let's say, Christian Encarnacion Strand. What does that trade situation look like? Is that a mid-tier prospect? Is that, 2 relief guys that maybe have done well over the past year or so in the minor leagues? It's kind of hard to really spell that one out as of right now, but we'll see kind of what that one shapes up to be. The more hard-hitting topic that I wanted to talk about, and this has Mariners fans pretty split. It seems, just from, I guess, seeing comments on X, Twitter. I still call it Twitter, so it's going to be Twitter for forever. Seeing all the comments on there, it looks like it's very heavily one-sided, but there's still some people on the other side. And I'll go ahead and give my take on the situation regarding Luis Arraez. Seems like Mariners fans, for the most part, don't want him. And I don't necessarily agree, but also, I hear you. $13.7 million. What's the trade package going to look like? Some other external factors that you don't know. Like, oh, he's not very good defensively. All the cons are there. But let's take a look at the pros, and I'll give my reasoning why. So, lifetime 323 hitter, that's automatically going to come to the top. Let's see. Last year, I believe he had 200 hits. Yeah, he had 200 hits last year, 32 doubles, 46 RBI. The OBP and the slugging, yeah, those don't really spell out a whole lot of success comparative to the batting average, but he has the one thing that you absolutely need in Seattle. Actually, he has two things. He has the hit tool, 200 hits. When's the last time there's been 200 hits in Seattle by a single player in a single year? It's probably something that starts with an I and ends with a Chiro. Yeah, I can't say that he's exactly Ichiro. That's not really. Yeah, I'm not going to say he's Ichiro, but he's an Ichiro type, right? He has 2 back-to-back years where he had 200 hits. That's notable. A couple other things that I wanted to note is the strikeouts and the walks are very favorable. 35 walks to 34 strikeouts in 2023 and 24 walks and 29 strikeouts in 2024. Yeah, you need that in Seattle. That's a missing piece in Seattle, and it's trended, his entire career. Here's what I like about him as well. We always struggle with, is this guy going to hit in Seattle? Here's one thing that he has that not a lot of other guys have had. You try and you bring in Mitch Garver, and unfortunately didn't have a very good year. Hoping for a bounce back year with him, but Luis Arraez has hit in the AL. He's hit in the NL. He's hit in cold weather. He's hit at sea level. He has a lot of factors that kind of come in a positive way that kind of spells out that he would have success in Seattle. Plus, his type and his style of hitting is what has been successful in Seattle. How many 40 bomb guys have we had over the past 20 years? Well, I'll go ahead and tell you. It's only happened twice, and it's by the same guy, Nelson Cruz, Mariner legend for sure. That right now is the outlier. Don't get me wrong. I still think you need Thump in your lineup. By all means, am I not saying like, you need nine of these guys? Let's go get 4 Victor Robleses and 5 Luis Arraez. No, I don't think that's a recipe for success. But this type of player mixed with a Victor Robles, assuming that he comes back like he did last year, this is what helps set the table for guys like Cal Raleigh, guys like Julio Rodriguez. This is what helps set the table for those guys. Randy Rosarena. This is what really. This is the player that could help set the table for those guys. And I know you're not trying to pay $13.7 million for a table setter, but this is a 200 hit table setter. He's going to help out way more than you think, especially with that huge glaring problem, staring you right in the face of the hit tool and the strikeout tool being in the negative in Seattle. So this addresses all that. And I really wanted to kind of focus on that part of it because I don't think that part gets enough love in the discussion battle. I feel like people just go straight to the WAR and the contract length, and what are we going to have to give up for him? Which is another thing to talk about. What does that look like? And it seems like that's the trend right now is the draft picks. Now, while I caution the Mariners to not give away their Comp A pick, is that what it's going to take? Is it going to be a Comp A pick and a decent prospect? Maybe not a top 5 prospect, but somebody in between 6 and 15. Yeah, I might take that. Yeah, it's a good chance that that's what it takes. Looking at the Gavin Lux trade, that's probably going to be ballpark what it is. It might be 2 prospects just because of what he's done. Padres also might be on the flip side, might be trying to shed some of that payroll. So maybe they're okay with just going with a very similar type of trade that the Gavin Lux trade just ended up being. There's a lot of different avenues for discussion, and it'd be great to be a fly on the wall to know, because I know Luis Arraez is being shopped around to New York, or at least it's being talked about. I would love to be a fly on the wall and understand what that discussion looks like, which prospects are being talked about, draft picks, money, all that. What's that all being talked about? What does that look like? And what does that shape up to be? But Yeah, I gotta disagree with a lot of Mariners fans out there and saying that Luis Arraez would be an absolute upgrade. Now, to address the financial situation of only having about $15 million in payroll, yeah, that's a problem. We always knew there was going to be a problem. It's a problem every offseason, it feels like. Um, so how you address it is, there's him, Pete Alonso, and really, it's kind of it for real wish. At least on my list, my wish list, those are two of the only guys left that I had. I really wanted Christian Walker. I know some Mariners fans were split on that, but I think that if you would have added some form of on base guy or some type of, I guess singles merchant is what we're calling them nowadays, add one of those guys and then add a thump bat. Yeah, I think that gets the job done. I'm not saying it's World Series, but looking at the trend with Dan Wilson and company, I think you put yourself in a good spot, at least a better spot than where you're at now. But to kind of address the financial situation of it all, if Mariners fans out there are just like, we don't want all of our money pretty much going towards this one player, we can't open up any more money. I call BS on some of that stuff because we just saw last year the Mariners trade away Jared Kelenic, Marco Gonzalez, and Evan White in one single trade to the Atlanta Braves. And then what did the Braves do? They turned right around and they shopped them off. If the Braves can do it, come on, Trader Jerry, you got this. I believe in you that you can somehow finagle, talk finances on trying to find a suitor for Mitch Haniger or Mitch Garver, and inheriting some of that money, or sorry, retaining some of that money. Even if we're only giving up 8 to 10 million, it's 8 to 10 million that you get back. And then at the end of the year, no harm, no foul. We restart with that contract because it's gone. So, in my opinion, there are ways to navigate around that without necessarily getting rid of Luis Castillo. He is an option. He's not my number one option, even though he's been mercilessly, I'll figure it out one of these days. Mercilessly been talked about in trades since we could talk about him in the offseason. I just don't see why we have to move forward with nobody. That's kind of the big picture here, is that there are options, and Luis Arraez, in my opinion, is a good option. I think he adds a lot of value in Seattle, and I think if you look at the history of everything, yeah, he should do well in Seattle, more so than I can say for anybody else. Where you really would have won with Luis Arraez is if you would have traded for him last offseason when he was traded from the Marlins. Because looking at that trade package, it was pretty favorable, especially if you're getting a solid hitter. Just imagine if you would have done that and had Victor Robles go off, both of them in your lineup. Yeah, it could have been a little bit different every year. I'm not saying we would have made the playoffs, but it would have been a different year, I think, in the positive. Maybe if instead of 54%, 55, I don't know, which we didn't even hit 54%. So, but, anyways, just wanted to wrap things up with, what are your thoughts on Luis Arraez after kind of giving those stats, seeing it under this light, and, being able to maneuver around other financial problems, being able to shop Mitch Haniger and maybe a mid-tier prospect and, $8 to $10 million, somewhere in that range, and getting pretty much nothing back, but opening up that payroll for the rest of the year so you can at least set yourself up for success. Love to hear your thoughts. Throw them in the comments. Let's get some dialogue going. I'm Gavin Height with Up West Sports. Life's too short. Gas up your boys. I'm out.